Oh, hi. Yeah, I know. But look, you gotta do what you gotta do. See, this is what we call training here. See, here's what it is. See, the anti-thinker's HP, somewhere up around, yeah. My HP, somewhere up around, yeah. So, I gotta raise that up. But you know, while I was passing through this area, I found this place and the slimes just keep respawning like crazy. I mean, it's nuts. So I figured, why go any deeper in? I'll just grind it out here. I got up like 4 levels in 3 days. It's nuts. Ah, level grinding, the once and future primary aspect that separates role-playing games capital from all other games where you play a role, aka all other games. For some, it's a beloved mechanic that rewards time and effort put into a game with tangible results. To others, it's an irritating obstacle and one of the primary things that keeps them from getting into the RPG genre. I've been on both sides, usually depending on how well a given game actually integrates its leveling up mechanic into the bigger picture. But here, in this forsaken forest realm, I've gotten into a serious groove with it. I've lost count of how long I've been killing slimes, and by now it's become kind of a blissful reflex action, as natural as breathing. I can't necessarily describe the state as fun, but there's something contented about it. Anyway, to really understand the deeper implications of the experience point-based RPG, experience, one needs to go back to the very origins of role-playing games themselves, which, trust me, goes way the fuck back. So for purposes of brevity, I'm only going to go back as far as 1913, when H.G. Wells, yes, that H.G. Wells, author of The Time Machine and War of the Worlds, published a book called Little Wars. It was a game book outlining a set of rules so that children, or whoever, could play with their toy soldiers in an organized game with strategy and scorekeeping. Imaginary wargaming had existed before, but Little Wars has been credited with mainstreaming the concept. That's right. Those of you out there who are into Warhammer and other tabletop miniature games, the next time someone says it's a stupid hobby, you can tell them without a hint of irony that your stupid hobby is the creation of one of the most important figures in literary history. So there. Wargaming remained a popular niche hobby all throughout the 20th century, with most games being built around military or political conflicts. But in the 1960s, as the unironic celebration of militarism fell increasingly out of vogue with the younger intellectual circles where the pastime had always thrived, a new kind of setting crept in to take its place: fantasy. In the late 1970s, two dedicated wargamers would change the face of the hobby and the genre itself forever. Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson would team up to create Dungeons & Dragons, and they built the gameplay largely around chance-based mechanics, many of which originated in Arneson's earlier game Blackmore. Chief among these was the concept of experience points, a way of expressing the abstract idea of a character improving with time and training as a mathematical equation. Positive turns taken in the character time while playing would be expressed as a rising numerical value, and when the number reached the appropriate levels, the statistics representing the character's fixed attributes like strength, magic, luck, etc. would rise accordingly. In other words, playing the game more and well would earn a player's character better skills. Since video games, by their nature, already expressed everything as an equation, this style of RPG in the digital realm went together like peanut butter and jelly. Really, really fancy jelly. See, what computer/video gaming brought to the RPG was something the genre had always seemed to need but had never had. From the beginning, the sole limiting factor of any given RPG was that all the participants were humans, so everything from story structure to maintaining interest was fundamentally tied to the limits of human intellectual endurance. To put it in Dungeons & Dragons terms, your journey through the game was entirely at the whim of however long your dungeon master was still into it, so there was only so high a level could climb or so long a story could be. But a computer being in charge of the levels, points, and story, now we're talking. A computer is built to crunch numbers and keep things in order, and it'll never need a bathroom break or decide it's no longer interested in having you finish off Tiamat. In effect, video games gave role-playing games the one thing any imaginary world needs to be fully realized: a god. And best of all, the god of the CPU wasn't going forward with the story until you wanted it to, which opened up a whole new way to play an RPG. If you wanted, you can travel around without necessarily progressing forward in the story points, killing monsters and building up your experience to wherever you had the time and inclination to get it. Worried about how tough the next map's enemies will be? Set aside some time, exercise your way up to crazy high stats, and by the time you get to them, they'll be no match for you. Back then, it was called Why Only People Without Much to Do Are Any Good at Final Fantasy. Today, we call it level grinding. So basically, level grinding is a way to bend a game's mechanics to your own will, sort of like hacking within the rules or an open loophole. Whatever you want to call it, it's a permanent part of the RPG video game landscape, even for those who don't actually use it much. There's a kind of conventional wisdom that says you can tell a bad RPG because those are the ones that require you to grind to get anywhere, but I don't know if I completely buy that. There's actually an urban legend that the first Dragon Quest actually made you grind a lot right at the beginning just to get your first sword, because the creators thought that'd force more people to buy the game instead of just renting it. Whether that was true or not, I don't know, but I don't know how any of us could objectively call Dragon Quest a bad game. Me, I actually enjoy level grinding. At least that'd be the closest approximation of the feeling. When you get into a comfortable zone with it, i.e. the game has good music and the designs of the monsters you're killing is good and the mechanic is well balanced and the whole atmosphere is working, it can be a relaxing form of repetitive action, almost akin to meditation. Actually, it's a lot like the way tending a Zen garden or any other repetition of simple task meditation technique is supposed to work. Which I guess sort of makes sense and probably accounts for why more grind-oriented RPGs like Dragon Quest are more well-received in Eastern gaming culture than they tend to be in the West. That said, I do tend to draw the line at grinding for grind's sake. This is why I just can't get into World of Warcraft, really. The goal to raise your level is pretty much so you can raise it even more in slightly different ways. Not really my thing. See, I enjoy the idea that a game rewards you for playing more of it, but at the end of the day, I want the overall effort to still be building to something. I also like when games that aren't necessarily RPGs incorporate an experience-building and or leveling up element into their mechanics. I think adding RPG-style stat-raising attributes was one of the best changes Symphony of the Night brought to the Castlevania franchise. Again, because it opens up different ways to play the game while maintaining its overall integrity. Do it the hard way and let your abilities rise in tandem with the threats you face, or grind your way to nigh invincibility and make those more difficult later challenges not so difficult. Maybe this is something we should think about incorporating more heavily into more games. You're already seeing some of this in titles with a heavy online multiplayer component where achievements earned in multiplayer can impact the campaign, and vice versa. I could do with more of that. Hell, if blasting a certain number of random avatars in Call of Duty Online would potentially increase my health or the size of my ammo clip, you'd probably see me online more often. Or not. Too much of modern gaming is built around such contradictions. The basic mechanics of most gameplay are set up for us to unwind and play around. As gamers, we often demand some kind of broad narrative or goal-based progression in order to give our investment weight, but sometimes you still just want to play around. Level grinding, when it's worth it, is a way of bringing these two angles together. Furthermore... Ooh! Metal Slime! Score! Oh, no, he doesn't. Thanks, Anithia, for the motherfucking metal slime. Now we're talking. Climbed up pretty damn high today. Didn't realize there were hills like this in Minnesota. I guess so. That's Wario's Woods for you. Game OverThinker reporting last entry. What the fuck? What the fuck is that? Game OverThinker, reporting from somewhere within Wario's Woods. I've come upon something unexpected, something extraordinary. Oh man, I hope you guys can see this. Take a look at this. Are you getting this? Some kind of structure. Looks medieval. Completely wrong for the geography and area. Unbelievable. Discovery of absolutely massive structure at the highest point in Wario's Woods. Design appears Celtic. Makes no sense. I have no idea what it is I'm looking at. No idea where it could have come from. I get the sense I'm compelled to enter. This may be my final entry. Whatever my destiny is, it's inside this thing. Game OverThinker, signing off.